Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7 o'clock on the dot p.m., and this is the regular meeting of the Kaneland Board of Education. We'd like to inform all board member attendees that this meeting is being live streamed and archived for access at any time by our community members on the internet within 24 to 48 hours of the meeting's conclusion. All right, Mr. McCauley, please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and a roll call, please.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Kleisner.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Dr. Lawler and Mrs. Simmons are absent today.
Okay. And with 5 members present, we still have a quorum. Is there anything the board would like to move from consent agenda to new business? Okay, hearing nothing at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
All right, 5-0, the agenda has been approved. It's now time for the board/superintendent salutes, and I will turn it over to Dr. Layden.
Yes, thank you. Happy to share. First of all, we have 2 different salutes that we're going to recognize. The first one, Mrs. Eggleston, our Director of Special Services. She is going to share. Yep, please go ahead and head up to the microphone, Mrs. Eggleston. Our first one is a salute to the Elburn Lions Club. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Eggleston, and she'll share some of the details of the event that took place over Christmas break.
I'm so pleased to be able to share and thank Tim and Doris, right, for coming and representing the Elburn Lions on January 6th. We had the opportunity to participate in what we would call is Saturday morning movies, where the Elburn Lions hosted a movie morning. And they showed Shrek, and they opened it up to students with disabilities and their families. And we were very happy to have approximately about 35 students and their families attend. And we are so honored that you would consider working with us and offering those things, offering the movie for our families. So we would like to honor you on behalf of Kaneland's family and the students and families for your support for our students. So we were very fortunate to be able to have, I think it was Joe Krzyzak and his wife Sharon, along with Pam and Steve Hall as well. So thank you so much. I don't know if there's anything you want to share on behalf of, you know, what the Elburn Lions does and how they support families. Not to put you on the spot, but
That's a big subject.
oh, we do a lot. Well, we're so grateful that you came all dressed up and you played the part. So thank you so much on behalf of the students and their families for providing this for them. We appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. In addition to recognizing the Elburn Lions Club, Mrs. Eggleston is the conduit that makes that happen. So thank you to Mrs. Eggleston, as well as the Sycamore State Theater that also hosts the movie in the morning. They open up a little early. So it's appreciated to be able to have that triple relationship to make that event happen for our students. So thank you, Mrs. Eggleston, as well.
Yeah, it was an amazing event. I was able to attend, and if you haven't been to that theater, it's really cool. But to see the kids engage, and so thank you to the hard work, and thank you to the Elburn Lions Club. You know, we can't thank you enough for all you do for the community and for Kaneland, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Rollman, David Rollman, Athletic Director at Kaneland High School, is going to come up and address and share some of the information, and we have coaches and students who will probably also fill in some of the details from our fall sports. So welcome.
Dr. Layden, Board of Education, thank you for having us. I know we were supposed to be here in December, so I appreciate your flexibility and allowing us to come now. So I've been here for 6 years now, and I like this new addition. Thank you for doing it. So, as Dr. Layton said, we do have many of our coaches and some of our student athletes here tonight too that are going to share with you some of the highlights of the fall season. I will share with you that the IHSA offers 9 interscholastic sports and that Kaneland High School offers 8 of those. We have 8 of those 9 programs. We had about 400 student athletes participate this past fall, which is right on track with what we've had over the last half a dozen years or so. We currently have about 90 coaches within our athletic programs, and 20 of those are full-time volunteers as well. So we continue to see the Kaneland community come back and give back to our student athletes year after year. So one of our coaches that did not or was not able to be here tonight is Scott Perillo, who coaches our boys and girls soccer programs. He did share, and I believe that we do have copies of this for all the board members as well, but our boys soccer team finished 11-10-2. In conference, they were 8-2 and tied for first place in the conference. They did lose in the regional championship to Rockford Boylan Catholic High School. We ended up with 8 all-conference players this year. Sam Keene was named co-player of the year for our conference. Sam also set a school record with 37 goals this year in a season. We had 14 of our student athletes from soccer make academic all-conference. We had 1 player make all-sectional and then 1 all-sectional honorable mention. So we want to thank those student athletes and Coach Perillo and staff as well. And then I'm going to turn it over to our coaches, and they can come up as they wish. I think Coach Thorgerson is going to talk about football first.
Mike Thorgerson, head football coach. Thank you for having me tonight. We had a very good team this year. This is my first year as head coach. We also played a very tough schedule. The first and last game of the year, both opponents ended up going to the 6A semifinals. But we battled, we fought, we hung tough with just about every team we played. We were actually winning every single game every time we took the field. I was very proud of our kids for that. We ended up with a 7-4 record overall, 4-2 in conference. We made it to the second round of the Class 6A playoffs. We were one of the smallest schools in 6A. Anytime you win a playoff game, we consider that a success. Around Kaneland, we're kind of spoiled. That's kind of the expectation. However, we'll take it, and we're proud of it. Our individual achievements, our lower levels were successful as well. Okay, we had success at every level of football this year. Our individual achievements included All-State Troyer Carlson, our quarterback, who also set a school record for career 90 touchdowns. Actually took it away from my brother. So our honorable mention receiver, Eric Johnson, who just received a full athletic scholarship to Western Illinois. Our all-conference players were Troyer, Eric, Josh Mothy, Brett Larson, Dominic, and Tony DeBlasio, Sebastian Chavez. Academic All-State, Troyer Carlson, Eric Johnson, Josh Mothy, Dominic DeBlasio, Tony DeBlasio. And academic all-conference included Jake Buckley, Sam Bruno, Vinny McDonald, Alex Moose, Austin Isaacs, Levi Hurst, Dylan San Augustin, Zach Conrad, Davis Muzingas, Matt Wegner, Michael Lane, Nick McNamara. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I can stand too, David. This is nice. My name is Jack Clary. I'm the boys head cross country coach. I brought with me Colin Rudiman tonight. We're here to talk just a little bit about our season. Most recent history, just this past weekend, Larry Eddington, Kaneland's former cross country coach who passed away while teaching in his classroom in 1994, was inducted into the Illinois Track and Cross Country Coaches Association Hall of Fame. So that just happened this past weekend. We had a historic season ourselves on the cross country slate. Coach Clayton Brundage and Jake Kaufman were with us for the entire season. Started in the summer, mid-June, 6 a.m., 4 days a week. The boys and girls were up and at practices and working. Boys took a trip to Laredo Taft, the NIU field campus, met up with Dr. Carissa Kuipers from Northern Illinois University to work on building our culture and teamwork. And so Colin wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the successes that the team had this year.
So we started off a regular season at the King County Invitational, and we won that meet for the first time since 1988. We then went on to get third place at the Sycamore Invitational, 6th in the Class in Class 2 and first finish meet at the state meet course in September. And then we hosted our annual Eddington Invite and we got 5th place. We won the Sterling Rock River Run. We won the Pat Harlan Invite hosted by Antioch just over the border in Wisconsin. We won the Interstate 8 conference for the 5th year in a row, and Rofsoff won that meet as well. We had 4 all-conference runners, Evan Nosek, David Valkanoff, Evan Wilden, and Zachary Murdoch. We then hosted our regional starting both season. We placed 2nd to Marmion. And then at the sectional meet, we ran on a hilly course. We again got 2nd to Marmion, but we qualified for the state meet after we didn't last year. At the state meet, we had amazing weather. We were seated 11th and 13th, and we ended up placing 4th as a team. We had 7 PRs, all 7 of our runners PR'd. Our last run of the finish was Joey, who is the 5th Kaneland freshman to run at state in our program's history. Then 6th was myself. And then starting our scoring runners, our 5th was Liam Lenz, who placed 143. And 4th we had Zach Murdoch, who is a junior, who placed 80th. We then had Evan Wilden, who is a sophomore, who got 36th. David Valkanoff, who's a senior, who's our first all-state runner. He got second on our team. He's the 3rd fastest Kaneland runner of all time. He placed 9th. And then our fastest runner was Evan Nosek, who placed 6th in the race, all-state as well, and he's the 2nd fastest Kaneland runner in our program's history. We had the fastest team time, so if you combined all of our times together, we had the fastest one out of all 24 teams in the program who competed at the state finals.
Great season. Glad to be here. Thank you for hosting us.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, my name is Doug Ecker. I'm the girls cross country coach. The girls this year placed in the top 1/3 or better in all their invitationals. In cross country, you mainly run invitationals on Saturday. We don't have dual meets and things like that. Top 5 finished at Sycamore, where they were 3rd. Eddington, they were 4th, which is the Kaneland Invitational, and Sterling Rock River, they were 5th. At the conference, both the varsity and the JV were 2nd as a team. Danielle Bauer, Graceland Cole, and Abby Fitz earned all conference honors. Freshman Natalie Atenko won the JV race, and Maggie Spalasso and Lisa Fleshman, were right behind in 3rd and 4th, respectively. At the I'd State Series, the girls placed 4th in the regional, which allowed them to qualify for the Woodstock sectional, where they placed 13th. We had 19 girls on the team. Of those 19 girls, 13 were either academic, all conference, or honorable mention, all conference. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Beth Miller. I'm the girls' head tennis coach. So this year we had 31 athletes this season, 19 returning players and 12 new ones. There were 17 on varsity and 14 on freshmen, sophomores. So I brought 2 varsity players with me. I have Abby Grahams, who's a senior. Oh, she's over on the other side. I thought she was going to be next to me. And Lauren Babka are juniors. So they're going to tell you a little bit more about our season.
Some of our season highlights to start off at the Plainfield North Invite. My doubles partner, Elena Gooch, and I took 2nd place at 3rd doubles.
And then as a team, we took 1st place at the Rochelle Ladies Hub Tournament. At that invite, senior Casey Randall at 2nd singles took 1st place, and me and my doubles partner, Lauren Andrews, at 1st doubles also took 1st place. And again at 1st place, Lauren and her partner, Elena, took 1st place at 2nd doubles.
Our 3rd doubles team of seniors, Noel Noring and Kara Richardson, took home 2nd place. At conference, our 1st singles player, junior Ellie Taylor, finished in 3rd place.
Unfortunately, in the long run, we did not have the results we hoped for at sectionals. Me and my doubles partner, Lauren Andrews, lost in the sectional final before the state qualifying round. After being up 5-2 in the 2nd set, we ended up losing in a tiebreaker, and it was truly a heartbreaker. But Wheaton St. Francis is a team we face a lot at sectionals.
One other highlight that we are extremely proud of is that out of 17 girls on varsity, we have 12 who received academic all-conference honors, GPA of 3.5 or higher, and we also had 2 honorable mentions. That's a little more than 80% of our varsity athletes, proving that they work hard on and off the courts.
All in all, we had a great season. We had a lot of team bonding events and team dinners and whatnot, and I can't wait to see what the program does in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cindy Violet, the Varsity Volleyball Coach. And first, thank you for having us here and recognizing the hard work and time our athletes put into the programs, all for Kaneland. If you were to ask these girls what's the most important thing they get out of it, it's not the record, it's not the win-losses. They'll tell you it's the team bonding and the relationships they build throughout the season and throughout the 4 years that they're here. A lot of the girls would like to be here, but they work hard in the off season. So right now, club volleyball is going pretty strong. So I have two of my seniors here, Addie Rue and Delaney Calabrese, who are going to talk about the season.
Okay, so this year our varsity team ended with an overall record of 27-11, and in conference we were 8-2. And this is the 6th year in a row we are conference champs, and then the 5th year in a row of being regional champs, with there being no playoffs in 2020. The team earned second place in the West Aurora tournament, Glenbard West tournament, and our Kaneland Invite, and also the Woodstock North tournament.
Our team had 15 out of 16 girls earn all conference academic honors, and 8 out of 10 of our seniors are planning to play at the next level. Our all-conference honorable mention was Delaney Calabrese. Our all-conference team was Morgan Beam, Rosie Carl, Sophie Knazer, and Mia Vassallo, and then our all-conference MVP was Rosie Carl.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Then we're going to wrap it up and talk about our golf teams. Don't see any of our boys golfers here tonight, so I will speak on behalf of Coach Davis. The boys golf team was 5-1. They lost to Ottawa. Seniors Brian Davis and Zach Ramos each received all conference honors, and fellow senior Wesley Hollis, qualified to play in the state tournament this year. Within the varsity seniors, 3 of them will play golf at the next level. I think that talks about the amount of talent that we have, and we have quite a few young players that are going to come up and help as well. A couple of highlights for boys golf this year. At the Larkett Invitational at GCI, Zach Ramos and Brian Davis both shot 72. I don't know what that's like, so Brian keeps telling me he'll show me someday. At the Sycamore Invitational, Brian Davis and Brad Frank, received medals. Brian also went on to be the sole team member to medal at the Marmion Invitational at the Aurora Country Club as well. Like I said, we're going to graduate 5 seniors from our boys golf team, but we have quite a few young players coming back as well. Coach Doug McNally did a great job working with our younger players this year as well, so we appreciate that. And then we leave it up for the girls golf team.
Thank you for having us here. Thank you for having this event. I think it's great that all these different sports teams get a chance to get in front and kind of get a chance to expose everyone to the seasons we went through. And I'd like to lead off our portion by saying I've never shot 72 either. So, congratulations to those golfers for that good number. I think we had a fantastic season. We have a wonderful group of girls that came, and we really did achieve a lot this year. We had a great season in many different ways. The places were good. A lot of fun was had. And I brought my 3 seniors. I brought Marissa, I brought Braylon, I brought Livy. They're going to go ahead and go through this great slideshow.
Okay, this is a picture of us on our home course. Our home course is Hughes Creek in Elmer. It's very nice to have it so close to the school. We enjoy playing there. We have some of our practices there, which are chipping, putting usually. And then all of our home matches, obviously, right there, which is fun.
So we start off with away matches at night called flow golf matches, and it's a really fun way to start the season and to an introduction, because it's like less competitive and we get to like work as a team together. We then get to play regular matches against schools such as Ottawa and Sycamore, and we get to know people on the other teams as well. We also have invitationals such as the Jacobs Invitational that is on the weekend. And then we have conference, which we placed second against Sycamore. And fortunately, this year we moved to regionals, and these 2 seniors moved on to sectionals.
We don't have a ton of like crazy accolades to share with you guys, but I do want to talk about some of the friendships we make. One thing I love about being a Kaneland golfer is playing with other teams and not only playing with my own teammates, but making friendships along the way. As you all know, Ottawa's in our conference. It's about an hour and a half away from here. These are two girls that we played with that we have a funny little picture with here. It's super fun being a Kaneland golfer because it's also about the experience of meeting other people, playing with other people, and getting to know other people on the course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to the countless hours that not only the athletes but the coaches, assistant coaches, everyone involved in these sports puts into these programs. And you know, you guys are truly the pride of Kaneland. You make us proud. I wish I could go to more events, but it doesn't go unnoticed. You know, having been a high school athlete myself, I know the early mornings, the late nights, the commitment. So thank you to not only the athletes, but also the coaches, the assistants, everyone else.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out. And typically at this time, as we move on to the rest of the board meeting, I don't know if you just.
Oh,
wanna share.
yeah. Did Dr. Fuchs, did you have
I don't
anything
have anything
today?
tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the board appreciates everyone in attendance this evening and invites you to stay as we move into the new business part of the meeting. We understand that not everyone is able to stay for the entire meeting and wanted to make sure you know that this is an open meeting, so you are able to come and go as you please. We look forward to seeing you at future meetings. So, long story short, we get it. You guys are welcome to take off.
Maybe their cars are still warm.
Yeah, maybe your cars are still
Still
running.
warm when they get pull your car.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for coming out. It's great to see this.
Yeah.
A lot of academic accolades, which was really, really.
Isn't that, yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, next up is consent agenda. So under the consent agenda for tonight, we have the following action items: the approval of the treasurer's report from December 2023, the approval of accounts payable December 2023, approval of minutes from the December 11th, 2023 regular meeting, the January 8th, 2024 special meeting, and the January 9th, 2024 special meeting. Approval of personnel, approval of destruction of audio recordings from closed sessions meetings from July 2022, approval of donation from KBK PTO for replacement of playground equipment, and approval of the fees from 2024-2025. As well, we have the following informational items: the student suspension data report and the second quarter budget report. So, at this point, do we need a motion? It says roll call. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Cook?
Aye.
Mr. McCauley?
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky?
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner?
Aye.
All right, the consent agenda has been approved by a motion of 5-0. So now we're up for public comments, and just so the board is aware and everyone is aware, I spoke with an individual before. She has a friend or someone she knows that wasn't able to make it, and so she signed up under 2 different time slots, and we don't have any hard and fast rules, so I figured that was acceptable. That way she gets her 3 minutes, and then that person can have the 3 minutes through her. So that's what's going on there. So first one is Mrs. Jennifer Crocker.
Do you want to do the spiel?
Oh, yeah, excuse me.
Just
Yeah,
to
thank
say-
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
We use the public comment section as an opportunity to listen to our stakeholders. The board does not debate or engage in conversation during this time. I'd like to remind everyone to state your name and village of residence for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Public comment is a maximum of 30 minutes with a 20-minute total length of time for any one subject. Those who speak are asked to maintain a tone of courtesy and civility. So, same spiel as usual. Yeah, and Ms. Crocker.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Crocker and I live in Sugar Grove. I'm the parent of an 8th grade student at Kipla.
Last week, the 8th grade parents received an email notifying us that the 9th grade expansion of KIPLA isn't happening. Reasons cited were enrollment, logistics, and staffing. To say that we were surprised is an understatement. The district started advertising KIPLA in 2022 with an enrollment deadline of December 2022. During all of the info nights and the district communications, it was repeatedly stated that KIPLA will expand 1 grade per year. Will, not might. At no point was it communicated to parents that the expansion to 9th grade was dependent on enrollment. Had I known, I would have been the first to sign up to help with recruitment. The district portrayed this new school as something that they were prepared for, but it turns out that not enough planning was put into what happens after 8th grade. I know that there's some community pushback about the cost of having this additional school. I'm a member of the district financial advisory committee, and we discussed this at our October meeting. Dr. Fu shared with us that the actual cost of starting the school was minimal. The Merida Center building already exists, and whether or not it's used for students, the building still needs electricity, heating, and regular maintenance. KIPLA students take the existing Kaneland High School bus routes, so they incur no additional transportation costs. The bulk of the expense is staffing, but fewer teachers are needed at KIPLA because one teacher teaches multiple grades at the same time. The students at the other schools also benefit from smaller class sizes. I understand that 9th grade will require 2 additional teachers. However, this isn't a surprise expense. KIPLA is an exceptional school with staff members that are dedicated to individualized learning and the success of their students in school. I've never met teachers so excited to come to work. They work hard every day to make sure this school is a success. My husband and I are very worried about what 9th grade will look like for our student. She has honestly struggled for years and finally found an educational environment that she's truly thriving in. Please think about the impact of the decision this decision will have on these students and reconsider the expansion to 9th grade. At a minimum, I'd like to see the school board make an official commitment to the future of KIPLA. Otherwise, parents have no incentive to continue signing their students up. The longer the students are at KIPLA, the harder it will be for them to transition back to a traditional classroom. Going from a highly personalized and individualized learning environment to being in standardized environment will be incredibly difficult for these students. KIPLA is honestly an amazing school. I'm disappointed about how this decision is impacting my family, but I still want to see KIPLA succeed. I don't want this to happen to any more students. KIPLA parents took a big leap by enrolling our students in a new school and trusting the district to provide what was promised. Right now, you aren't doing that. Please commit to this school and give it the opportunity to grow, as I have no doubt that given your full support, this truly unique school will do amazing things. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, we have next up Alex Crocker.
Hi, my name is Alex Crocker. I live in Sugar Grove and I'm an 8th grader at KIPLA. I had a hard time at Harder. Harder is loud, fast, and time for help is very limited. At Harder, I was one of 300 students. It was a lot. I've had a lot of mental health struggles, and this year has been extra difficult. My school counselor suggested we look into KIPLA. The principals agreed that I was a great fit for KIPLA, and we quickly made the transfer in October. My time at KIPLA has been amazing. KIPLA is a special place. The teachers work together so they know what's going on in the other subjects. This helps the amount of work we have to do from becoming overwhelming. Yesterday, I asked Ms. Satterfield what I needed to work on for my social studies project, and she already knew where I was in the project and what else I needed to do. The Harder teachers have to help so many students at once, so it's hard for them to remember previous conversations. It's much easier for me to get the help I need at KIPLA. Math being self-paced also helps me a lot. If I'm having a high-stress day, I can work on ELA instead and spend more time on math tomorrow. Or if there's a day like today where I'm feeling extra productive, I can get 3 lessons done for math and don't have to wait for the class to catch up. I'm the only 8th grade student at KIPLA that's working on 9th grade math, but it still works. And if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I can easily take a break and don't need to worry about falling behind. At Harder, if I took a break, I was certain to have homework. This led to me not taking breaks when I should have. The teachers at Kipler are really nice and supportive, even though it's only been a couple months. They know me well. Kipler is a different school. My personal needs have been communicated to all of the teachers, and I'm confident that they are all ready to support my mental health and education when I need it. Last week, we found out that Kipler will not be offering ninth grade next year. I'm very sad that I've found a school that works for me. I've learned so much in these last couple months and don't want to slow down. I always worry about the beginning of a school year, but I was so happy that when I switched to ninth grade, I would have teachers at Kipler that know me and will be there to support me. I'm disappointed and concerned about what ninth grade will be like for me without Kipler. Please reconsider your decision. I love Kipler and really would like to stay.
Thank you for speaking. I know it's not always easy, so we appreciate you coming up, especially for the student's perspective. All right, next up we have Jessica Massonet, forgive me if I botched that, which is going to be read by Mrs. Jennifer Crocker.
Jessica wasn't able to attend tonight, so she asked me to read this statement in her place. The transition to middle school posed a significant challenge for my daughter, especially consider her remote learning experience during fifth grade. After 2 years of meltdowns and watching my child go from loving school to hating school, I knew something needed to change. This led to exploring Ignite as an opportunity. My Montessori education informed my belief in the value of personalized learning, and the expansion plan of Ignite to encompass high school was an encouraging discovery. The positive impact Ignite has had on my daughter's well-being is astounding. The absence of meltdowns and her enthusiastic approach to each day are clear indicators of the difference this educational environment has made in her life. Presently, we are confronted with high school class scheduling deadlines and haven't been informed that Ignite will remain a school serving grades 3 through 8. A shock given that we went from attending an informational meeting in October about ninth grade at Ignite to receive an email in January that explained that was no longer on the table with zero information in between. To express my disappointment would be an understatement. The significance to follow through cannot be overstated. Had I been aware that my daughter would be unable to continue her education at Ignite, we would have made a different decision. To experience the benefits of personalized learning for a single year only to be directed back to conventional learning methods is deeply disheartening. My daughter should not be subject to an experimental approach by the district, and regrettably, my trust in the school has been compromised. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Molly Reamer.
Hi, my name is Molly Reimer, and I've lived in Elburn since 2016. I've had 3 kids educated in the Kaneland district. I'm here tonight to address the board regarding the upcoming proposal of the Tax Increment Financing District, or TIF, from Crown Development in Sugar Grove to be located at 8847. On the south side, residential and light commercial. On the north side, 3.5 million square feet of warehousing, data centers, and a truck stop. TIF is used to generate money to improve an undeveloped area. In a TIF district, the current property taxes are frozen for the duration of the project, 23 years, extendable up to 47. Crown Development, the 34th richest family in the U.S., and Sugar Grove will be proposing that 760 acres of prime farmland along Route 47 north and south of 88 is eligible for a TIF by way of a small area of supposed blight. For a minimum of 23 years, the amount of revenue our schools, fire, police, library, public works, and other taxing bodies currently receive will be frozen. Revenues resulting from any increases above this value will go directly to the developer, Crown. Schools could also receive a limited amount in impact fees, but that is not certain. Crown wants a 90-10 split plus management fees. They get 90% of the revenue, and Sugar Grove is left with 10% to divide among the 15 taxing bodies. The TIF ask is projected to be anywhere between $127 and $350 million, one of the largest in Illinois outside of Chicago and one of 51 other TIF districts in Kane County alone. I wonder why our property taxes are so high. I will be 45 in May. That means possibly for my entire lifetime, our local taxing bodies would receive no increase in revenue despite a rising need for police and fire services, excess strain on schools, and wear and tear on our roads. These services would be stretched thinner than they are to enrich an already wealthy developer. Why would anyone who lives here and pays taxes here want to shift a higher burden of cost on the taxpayers outside Sugar Grove for warehouses and a truck stop? With states balancing budgets by slashing aid to school boards and other government bodies, local revenue matters more than ever. Costly long-term property tax abatements and TIFs granted to large corporations in the name of economic development hurt our schools. They divert huge sums of property taxes for decades. Public schools are the lifeblood of our community. As educators, you know it's about more than the cost of educating students and aging infrastructure. District 302 cannot afford to give handouts to wealthy developers at the expense of taxpayers. There has to be a better way. Please go into this negotiation with all of the information, not just the promises being made by the developer. As residents, we can't vote on this, but as a school board, you can. You have the loudest voice, and I'm asking you to use it to vote no. No TIF, no warehouses at 88 and 47. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, next up, Andrea Williams.
My name is Andrea Williams. I reside in Elburn. I have lived in the Kaneland community for 37 years. I attended and graduated from the Kaneland high schools. And tagging on to the previous commentary related to the TIF, I would also like to reiterate to the board how big of a decision this is and what the lasting impact will be for everyone in our community, but especially our school districts and children. I want to take you back to when I was a junior in high school. And I have my scrapbook with articles from the Chicago Tribune telling us about Kaneland's worst financial crisis in the history of the 37 years of the school district. That was when the community was forced with the horrible decision after multiple failed referendum, situation that we're facing now, to cut every single non-required academic and extracurricular activity from any possibility of happening what would have been my senior year. A group of our parents formed a nonprofit organization, and you can see the drawdown raffle ticket here from 1995 that was $500 that we sold to raise $800,000 to close the financial gap. That was when the Kaneland School District had about 600 students in the high school, and we all know that there's way more than that today. So we heard all of the coaches and all of the students talking about the importance of their extracurricular experiences that they have in the district and what that does to their experience, their character growth and development. And this is a real potential to impact that and pose the same risk that I faced as a student at Kaneland and take that away from these students. And the other part of this that I would like to say is, yes, there's a financial impact with the TIF, but also there is a safety impact. As a parent, I have huge concerns about the amount of development that is being proposed for a very small section of roadway along 47 off of 88. To put it in perspective, in a 0.7 mile stretch from Merrill Road to where Route 47 meets 88, so south of the tollway, the proposal currently has 4 additional entrances and exits into the new business park development. That is the equivalent of the stretch of road along Randall from Fabian Parkway to Fargo, where there is 2 entrances and exits for commercial properties and developments. On the flip side, north of the tollway, there is a half-mile section across from residential Nottingham Woods development, where they are proposing an incremental 3 entrances and exits to the commercial development across from the residential development. Given the amount of students and buses that travel those roads, I have serious concerns about what that will do to the safety of our students, our bus drivers, and all the teachers and staff members that are traveling that on a daily basis with the increased truck traffic. So please consider your weight and responsibility in this decision.
Thank you. All right, last up we have Todd Flesher.
Good evening, board. My name is Todd Flesher. I'm from Sugar Grove. I'm here to talk about Kipla. Echo the same comments that Jennifer, Alex, and the rest of them had about the decision not to extend. We're extremely disappointed. My son Liam, who's here with me, he struggled at Harder. He barely survived Harder. He got good grades. The chaos, the noise, the loudness, the big classes didn't work for him. Kipla was a dream. He thrives at Kipla. I pick him up every day. He actually enjoys school. He didn't enjoy it at Harder. Now he's going to be forced to go back to the same thing. It's very disappointing. He said to me when I told him, they finally put something out in front of me that I could learn in, look forward to, feel like I was making real progress, and they just pull it away. It feels like a literal punch in the face. That's my son having to say he feels like he's punched in the face because of this decision. If we had known it wasn't going to extend, he likely would not have gone. Because why would he go and experience this for 1 year and have to go back? That's all I have to say. I emailed you all today. I'm very concerned. I wish you would reconsider. I wish you would have asked the parents if we had an opportunity, even to help financially, to move this along, help recruit students, help do something. But we didn't even get a chance to help. We didn't know. And now it's already pulled away. Our students were taken on a field trip, 2 weeks ago, to start picking classes for extracurriculars at high school. They were still under the impression that they were going to go to Ignite. Now, tomorrow they have to go and pick real classes, right? Because they don't have Ignite anymore. So please reconsider. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, at this time, I'll invite anyone who would like to come up, who potentially didn't sign up, that would like to come speak. And if you don't mind, please state your name and village residence or place residence.
Good evening. Thank you, board, for hearing us. And I'm Carolyn Anderson. I'm from unincorporated Blackberry Township. I'm a proud resident of Blackberry. And the ladies, Andrea and Molly, eloquently said pretty much everything that needs to be said. So I'm going to simply just remind you that the core values of Kaneland, integrity, respect, responsibility, citizenship, and a commitment to excellence. For responsibility, it says we are responsible people dedicated to making safe and healthy choices, fulfilling our obligations, developing self-respect, and accepting accountability for our actions. Your Kaneland community depends on you, and it's your board who makes these decisions for all of us. Back about 5 years ago, I started Thoughtful Progress in an attempt to try to get on top of this development. I did it out of a heartbroken reason, because I attended too many funerals of children that were part of the Kaneland district who were killed in car accidents. And that is my heart passion, is to prohibit another child from going through this and another family from suffering that loss. And you have the lives of these kids literally in your hands with this decision. When we talk about citizenship, as citizens, we have a duty to serve, participate, and promote involvement of others in the school, local, national, and global communities in a responsible manner. I'm asking you, please take this responsibility as serious as possible. This seems like just a small development, maybe to some. Maybe some people think that we're being unreasonable, but Crown has to meet what's called the but-for in order to qualify for this TIF. They've met their TIF eligibility for, the environment through the gray areas of the statutes of the state of Illinois. But the one that can be questioned is the but-for argument. That land is in a very valuable highway corridor. There is innumerable uses of the land. It may not have the infrastructure that the Crown family wants, but the land speaks for itself and what it can contain. There are means of putting wells and septic on that land and having successful development. We could start it breaking the ground this spring with something that is accommodating, that could pay into the tax system. We all know how everybody's suffering, how everybody is struggling to pay bills right now. And I know that Kaneland's not immune to that either. We all need to grow, and there's responsible ways to do so. I would like to encourage you, please seek the assistance of your attorney. Please look at the lawsuits that have been filed by other school districts.
it seems that school districts have taken the leads in these decisions in other areas. And so I hope that you understand that Thoughtful Progress in part is working on your behalf as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else this time? Okay. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
My name is Jaden Chadda. I am a freshman in college at Aurora University, and I am also going to be commenting on the Crown Project and the TIF. In addition to how the TIF will negatively impact the school district and other taxing bodies, have you given any thought to how unsafe and unhealthy this will be for the people that live here and in the Kaneland community? One study suggests that warehouses create 0.33 to 0.66 truck trips per 1,000 square feet, which means that 500,000 square feet of warehouses popping up in the suburban fringes of the metropolitan area can produce as many as 300 truck trips per day throughout adjacent communities. As you may or may not know, the plan is not for 500,000, but for 3.5 million square feet of warehouses. Twice a day, I commute to and from Aurora University and already experience the bad traffic conditions in that few miles of 47 near 88. Trucks pulling out in front of me and almost causing an accident about twice a week. I've even witnessed trucks and dump trucks, etc., pulling out in front of school buses. And as you know, there are school bus stops on Route 47 that are unsafe, and there's neighborhoods, Nottingham Woods, Willow Creek, that's unsafe for those buses as it is. And this problem is just going to make it worse, especially with the X amount of years of construction. 3.5 million square feet of warehousing in the middle of our small communities could be the potential disaster. Kaneland is an extremely large district, geographically speaking. Students travel through Sugar Grove from Maple Park, Montgomery, Virgil, etc. Do you want that many trucks on the road every day with the young drivers traveling to school every day? Having this type of development so close to so many neighborhoods comes with a great risk to our health and safety. Increased traffic, truck emissions, exhaust from diesel trucks contain components that pose health risks for exposed populations, some that can affect people even after short-term exposure. Nitrogen oxides and particulates can exacerbate underlying respiratory issues such as asthma or bronchitis. I encourage you to listen to our concerns and vote no at the TIF Joint Review Board and explore your options. This TIF is going to be potentially one of the largest TIFs in the state of Illinois, and for Sugar Grove, for example, they have a population of 9,000 people. Should that burden be placed on 9,000 people? Plus, for you guys, you represent a much broader community. That is a lot of people being burdened by the TIF. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
We have 30 minutes. Hello, my name is Ben Kirkland. I'm from Elburn. My son is an 8th grade student at Kipla. And just to echo a few things that have already been said by others, my son did not have a very good time at Harder. He loved school when he was young, and as he got older, he gradually liked it less and less. He was getting in trouble a lot at Harder on a regular basis. And his grades were all right, but when he first heard about Kipla, he started begging me immediately. He wanted to go try that. And once again, I was told repeatedly that there would be a 9th grade next year and that he would be able to continue and 10th and 11th and 12th. And I probably would not have sent him had that not been told to me over and over and over again, because now my son comes home from school for the first time in years and is excited to tell me about what he did that day at school. And I'm sure some parents know, it's a very odd feeling to have your student come home from school and be excited to tell you about what they did that day. And I can tell that he really is enjoying school a lot more. And I'm very disappointed that nothing was communicated to us before last week when we were told that now it's too late, it's over, you're done, there's nothing you can do about it. Please reconsider. and please give us a chance to at least help make this a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Having met our 30-minute time limit for public comments, I would invite any of you who would like to speak to sign up for the second round, which is going to be after new business, or after, excuse me, the topics for future agenda. So we'll have a second round if you'd like to speak. But at this point, we're going to move forward and proceed into new business, the new business portion of the meeting. So the first item of new business is the discussion of the Kaneland referendum information. Dr. Layton.
Yes, thank you. I would like to provide an update from our October meeting, as we shared, actually starting from last spring when the referendum, last April when the referendum failed. Part of the communication was to get feedback, hear from E.O. Sullivan, and then bring it back to the Board of Education for more direction and more information. At the October 30th board meeting, the board did direct administration to go and put together a plan for a potential next referendum. And just wanted to share, as you saw in the board memo, the actual timeline. The timeline is quite extensive all the way through starting tomorrow. I know that David Chavez put together a lot of information regarding a survey that, upon the board's direction tonight, seeking to move forward or directing the administration to move forward, that survey will go out. And again, that survey is just to get feedback and information from community and from staff to see some personal and professional decisions that they made on the last election, the last referendum vote. Also want to share just briefly, if you recall, when E.O. Sullivan came through in October, they shared some of their findings of part of why our referendum may not have been successful in April. And some of those findings were getting teachers and parents on board. So as you see, that was the first one. And as you see the timeline, you'll see several steps that we have in place with parents, community, and staff members, faculty meetings, forums, opportunities with the survey and others, just to get information. So we're not getting information on a vote yes or information to recommend to the board yet. It's just gathering information. Next piece, there are a couple tax impact pieces that E.O. Sullivan mentioned. One of them was the direct tax impact on families and communicating the fact that in 2028, 29 current tax or current bonds that we have based on Harder and some other construction would be falling off. So there would be potentially a tax decrease for the Kaneland portion of the taxes after the 28-29 school year. Another recommendation that they had as a part of taxes was to look to see, is there any way to reshift or change the way that the current bonds are funded right now, and also what the funds could look like for the referendum and what the amount might look like for future or for the referendum moving forward. The other two pieces that you'll see are reflected in here. One of them is to monitor the economy. That's part of what the survey will do. We're going to look at, through this survey and probably other community feedback, just to see where staff is, where community members are with the finances piece, what's happening with the economy. So that's one that we'll continue to monitor and learn more about. And then the last piece you'll see that they mentioned was whether or not to do a spring referendum or a fall referendum. They did mention a November of 2024 referendum recommendation date of the two for the general election at that time. So if the board is going to move forward as we gather more information and bring it back to the board, that November 5 of 2024 is the recommended time for the next step. You'll also see in the timeline, there are several communication pieces, the survey, and then also there are 4 different times where we're going to come back to the Board of Education for updates. So this is by no means a conclusion to our information. This is truly just getting authority from the board to start the process to gather information from the community, from staff on potential projects, potential funding limits that information that the board has used and hopefully would find helpful to make their decision in July or August as far as a November referendum. I know there was a lot in there, and I just shared a lot. What questions do you have? What can we do to answer any of those questions, or what feedback do you need to make that decision?
One of my biggest questions is this more in depth than what you guys went through for the last referendum when we started, obviously moving in that direction? I know it was a shortened timeline of when we decided to go to referendum and when we actually had to vote. So I'm sure you didn't have all the time to kind of get into this stuff. But so is this a larger volume of reaching out to the community? Is this a larger volume of surveys than you did with the previous referendum when you guys were seeking?
Yeah, great question. As far as the current planning, as far as the timeline, there are more inclusive steps to get feedback from stakeholder groups, teacher groups, family groups than we had in the spring. Yes.
Okay.
Other questions?
I have a question. So one of my big issues is when we go out for referendum again, I think that I'd like to see more transparency and see where our dollars actually being spent, or where the dollars we're asking for the taxpayers to give us being spent. And does this timeline incorporate working with the contractors? I don't think it's E.O. Sullivan, but it's rather Wold, yeah. Working with them to get more detail is what we need. I think that was one of the biggest issues with the last referendum is, knowing, okay, you're going to be giving us this money. This is what we're going to do with that money. As part of the timeline, is that happening? I understand the feedback portion, but
yeah, that we do have that planned as we get the feedback from stakeholder groups, staff, families. We do have plans to go back to Wold, have them look at the potential projects, cost out the projects, and as needed, look at what the drawings, specific drawings could look like. But again, didn't want to initiate that until we have more feedback from the community as far as where the community is. So that way we can more direct Wold on what to look for and what to do.
okay. So tonight, what we'd be approving this timeline, it's not hard and fast. We're not bound to it, but we're just basically giving you guys the authority to go out and start the process.
Yes, yes, great point. And start that process, and also be able to come back with multiple steps from the committee, and also the timeline. The timeline is a draft timeline, and if for some reason we need to move something up, add extra groups, get extra feedback, we have some flexibility built in that. We'd be able to do that.
Okay.
And I omitted at the beginning, I apologize. I didn't want to introduce our committee members. We do have, myself would be serving on the referendum planning team. In addition, Dr. Fuchs, Dr. Horn, high school principal, Jackie Bogan, a new assistant superintendent for business and operations. Then also David Rollman, athletic director, who you met and saw tonight from a high school perspective need. Mr. Payton, a director of buildings and grounds, and Mr. Chavez, who would also help with the communication piece. But then also that team, based on what some of the findings are, what some of the projects might be, that team could shift and be adjusted as well as needed based on what some of our findings are. So we do have that flexibility built in.
Any other input? You guys ready to vote? All right. Well, at this point, then I'll entertain a motion that the Board of Education directs the district administration to begin implementing the proposed timeline as presented. A roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Sorry.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. The Kaneland referendum timeline implementation is approved as presented.
Thank you. And that starts right away. A survey goes out first thing in the morning. So
Yeah, it's a pretty quick timeline, so I appreciate you getting on top of the surveys early, for
Yes,
sure.
Thank you.
All right, the second item of new business is the approval of the school bus purchase. Folks.
Thank you. Each year, we try to update our bus fleet. We have a fleet of 60 school buses, and we try to update approximately 5 buses per year. We have to order them early, especially in light of still COVID, where some of the buses, the manufacturers, et cetera, aren't producing as much, so the new ones aren't being turned over. Typically in the past, gosh, it's been probably 10 years now, that we try to buy 1-year-old buses because it saves us some money. And then if the buses have issues, most of those bugs have been worked out within that first year. So it really, we have found it very valuable to do that. I have provided the board in this report with a list of the 5 buses that we want to trade, numbers 4, 5, 1, 7, and 9. We've gotten our quote, and so I guess, oh, I know, I put the entire fleet on there with the mileage. On the back page, we've got a couple different charts for your information. One is by mileage, and the other one is by age. And so our activity buses are starting to pop in terms of age. So you may see those on a future bus purchase list. But for now, we still need to take care of our 72 passenger buses, which are the ones that carry our students to and from school each day. At this time, does the board have any questions?
So we're typically seeing about 8-9 years of our use out of the buses that we're purchasing.
A little bit more than that, typically 10 or 11.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think last year, I know this, obviously we talked about, this was talked about at the board last year. I think it was brought up talking about potentially going, seeing if there's any kind of auctions or something, some way to get this cheaper. I think you did some research on that. It wasn't as clear cut and easy to get access to like auction off buses. I'm not sure if that's something that you did look back into again when you started going through this.
We did.
Okay.
Jackie and I both looked into it, and we did not have much success. A lot of the companies that do the auctions, they auction large quantities of school buses. We've only got 5 to trade.
Yep.
And so that kind of slowed us down a bit in terms of the trade value. So.
So we really don't have any other. I guess the trade-in values are what get me. I feel like we get very little on trade for these buses, and there's no other outlets we have to unload them.
Not that I'm aware of. Typically, yeah, not that I'm aware of.
I mean, it's difficult because it's not like a village can auction off their cars and people will buy personal cars.
Right.
There's
a
who do
very
you sell school buses to?
Small market.
Right.
For used school buses
Narrow, yeah.
that are 10, 11 years old.
Not gently used either.
No, they've got
used.
lots of miles.
Yep.
I mean, our buses that we're trading have close to 150,000 mileage. Not all of them, but over 130 for sure. They're diesel, so they're expensive. And these values here are actually better than the ones we had last year. Last year they were in the 4,000s.
Yeah.
So I felt good about that. I pushed them on it a little bit. We've got one sales guy that takes good care of us. He holds buses for us. It helps our mechanics because they're the same engines. So the mechanics know how to work with them, and we get the parts. When we were bidding the buses and buying new ones, this is the company that we used. So we're familiar with them. There are only 3 bus companies, I think, that sell buses, and the other ones have different engines.
Okay.
Our mechanics prefer this one. So there's a variety of issues.
Yeah. No, I did notice that we got more compared to I pulled up last year's and
Yeah.
just my own personal.
I think it's because I told them that we needed more.
The squeeze.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you done? How often do you guys do an analysis of? Because other districts, and I know we geographically we're large, but other districts lease their buses, and we buy ours, which I'm sure was looked at when the decision was made initially. But do you guys review that?
It's been a little while since I've done that analysis, but what I can tell you before when I did do it, it is the size of our district and the number of miles that we put on our buses on an annual basis.
Right.
Because just like with a car lease, your lease is based on your mileage. And so the more miles you put on, the more it costs. Additionally, you're paying some interest on that because you're not buying it outright. And so by the time you do your lease and also the interest on the lease, it's more expensive. Additionally, the lease is typically, I think it's a 5-year lease, whereas we get 10 or 11 years out of our buses.
Sure.
So it's a push-pull because when they get up there, they start to cost a little more money in repairs. So that's what you have to analyze is the cost-benefit analysis between the lease and the repairs and then the purchases. It was that analysis when we started that caused us or moved us to start buying 1-year-old buses instead of brand new buses. Because we're saving about $30,000 on each 1-year-old bus right off the bat. And so if you add that up, subtract out some of the other stuff, I believe we're in the best position financially for our bus fleet.
Are there 2-year-old buses?
There are some. Let me see if I can remember what we looked at those because there's 1-year-old leases, 1-year-old bus leases, and 2-year-old bus leases. There are not as many 2-year-old buses available, and you didn't save what you save on the 1-year-old.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, it's been a little while.
Yeah.
I'd have to go look at my notes, but if I'm remembering.
I just didn't know the difference
Yeah.
in drop.
We get them from other school districts who are on those leases. Those other school districts, if you think about some of them, they're very small geographically.
Yeah.
Forgive me, but for example, Geneva's 14 square miles.
Yeah.
We're 142 square miles. That's a significant difference.
Yeah.
So,
Any other questions, comments?
And the leasing option we've looked at takes into account the fact that there's a bunch of stranded depreciation. That we can't take depreciation. We're a school district where a lessor could.
we can do some, we do calculate depreciation. It goes on our transportation claim, and then we get reimbursed for a portion of that. A portion. Yeah.
As opposed to.
Right.
A lessor could take the full, whatever, was it 4 or 5 years straight line?
I'm not sure about that.
Vehicles,
I know that
5 years straight line.
Yeah.
16 months.
I think even if we leased, we could do some depreciation.
Yeah.
Because it's on the claim form.
On the claim form, but not
But
to
I've
the same
never-
extent that
Yeah.
private lessor could.
That I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
Okay. Further discussion? You guys ready to vote? Let's do it. This time I'll entertain a motion that the Board of Education directs the administration to move forward with the purchase of 5 1-year-old replacement school buses in the amount of $578,695, less the trade-in value of $31,000 for the 5 trade-ins, with a total cost of $547,695 to be delivered on after July 1st, 2024.
So moved. Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Okay. 5-0, the school bus purchase for the 2024-2025 school year is approved as presented. Or, yeah, you know what I mean. All right. The third item of new business is the approval of policies from press first reading. And Dr. Layden.
Yes, just as a reminder, we do have our press policies. It's typically a quarterly report that comes to the Board of Education, and press policy have their internal attorneys look at all policies, and then they send out recommendations for the policies. Some are recommendations that the local boards can choose, and you'll see that we have a couple topics tonight for board consideration, but the vast majority are updates based on state code, based on other ISBE mandates that are required for the board action to take. So those that we do have, we review these, and as we review the policies, we look at it from a cabinet level, and then after the changes are made on second reading at the next meeting, we then go and implement what we need to do from our side to make sure that we're in compliance with policy. Then Mrs. Orful will update the policies, and then you would see updated policies online after the second meeting when they're approved on consent. So of these current policies that were sent, as you saw, there are 96 pages, and so there are several policies that are, again, state code, mandate, and statute changes. Those, if you have specific questions on, I'd be happy to address those, but what we have typically done now is I would share the 5 that either had a question or 5 that needed some sort of board feedback to answer what those questions are. And so the first one that I would share is on page 43 of your packet, and that is policy 5250. Are they numbered on the bottom of yours as well? They're numbered. So it's policy 5250, leave of absence. And this policy on the page 46, so on page 4 of the 5th page, it's basically just asking of the question, how many employees does the district employ? And that's a pretty straightforward question. It's 250 or more, so that is the question that's required for this one. So that one's a pretty simple one. That's how many employees we have, so that's 250 or more. So that is the answer to question 1. Any questions on, it's pretty straightforward again, but any questions on that one? No, that's just how many staff that we have. Second policy is second policy that requires action is page 65, which is 6-230, which is library media program. Under that policy, you'll see on page 65, number 5, they have the potential recommendation where each school district would use the American Library Association Bill of Rights to look at books, look at which books we bring into our libraries. And so as we looked at this policy, I looked at this. The other thing that I follow up with is with Maureen Lemon, our legal district counsel. So if we have questions on the legality of a matter, I would always follow up on that one. So as we looked at this one, if you recall, 2 years ago when this policy changed, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we kept control of was the local authority to make decisions on books in our libraries, and what our media is going to look like, what our curriculum will look like. So in this instance for number 5, the legal recommendation was not to put number 5 in there. So the question on page 66 is neither the first option or the second option. It's to not accept either and delete number 5 from that policy recommendation and continue to use our own local process for reviewing text, reviewing curriculum, and reviewing our own library packages that we have. So that gives us our local authority and local autonomy in which to do that. And legally, we're not required to approve that or to accept that. So the recommendation is to not include that, to eliminate that, and keep our current program that we have in place.
closely correlated is that to the bill that just got passed in Illinois on the ban on book? I'm not too familiar with it, but how does this interact with that?
Yeah, good question. The statute, what right now the statute does is it doesn't allow us to remove books from libraries. So we can't do that at this point right now, but this says when you're looking at new books to utilize the American Library Association. But what we'd rather do is keep our internal process that we have in place and continue to utilize that as we move forward. So it's not about banning what is already there. It's more about what we bring in using our 2 or 3 step curriculum process and our committee work that we have in place.
And it's probably more important now, right? Because the fact that we can't remove books, that law has been put in place, means that we need to recognize or acknowledge what's coming in. And we would want to, I would assume we'd want to retain that local control. So.
And that's where, and I appreciate Maureen Lemon's recommendation on that, knowing the conversation that we had 2 years ago when that process was first adopted or presented. So that's the second of the 5. The third, as we move forward, is residency 760, which is page 67, the next page actually, moving forward. What this policy does is this policy, if the board approves a special waiver, would allow our Kaneland staff members who live out of district to have their students attend in the district. Currently, right now, on page 68, there are 4 steps that currently allow it. There's paying tuition, sufficient room, charge the tuition, and then parents are responsible for their own transportation. So as we reviewed this, there were several factors. While our recommendation currently is no, what we want to do is see what's going to happen with this statute. See if over the next couple years, does the statute change? Does it become more flexible, less flexible? But rather than approve it now, monitor it for the next couple years to see if the legislation changes. Because a couple of the drawbacks would be class sizes, depending on how many out-of-district staff would want to bring their students. That would we wouldn't have control over class sizes. We don't know hard to tell which school, if our elementaries, with the 5 elementaries, if they all want their students to go to the same elementary, that could tax a certain grade level, could tax a staff trying to balance class sizes. And then the other piece too is just the cost. The cost of bringing several students in where we wouldn't be having those families with on the tax base or tax base in our community. We would essentially be having students from outside of our community coming in and our current tax base, current taxpayers paying for that for them. So based on that, our recommendation is the default, which is no at this time. Continue to monitor that as we move forward, look to see if the laws change. I think one of the other stressors could possibly be what happens with that law. Right now, we would not be responsible for transportation. And as we just talked about transportation and buses, if this statute would change and we'd be required to provide transportation, then that would be another logistical situation for a bus fleet that already has a lot of miles on it. Any questions on that policy and that recommendation?
So just to be clear, the policy that's written right here in front of us right now, that is the current policy that we hold?
On page 68, I think you're referencing numbers 1 through 4 on page
Yes,
68.
exactly.
Yes, that is our current policy.
So if a teacher wants their child to be a student within our district, there is a tuition that's paid.
Yes.
They do the transportation and all that other stuff, and it still has to be approved by you as a superintendent, I believe.
Yes.
And a case by case, and then it's a year-to-year basis after that.
Yes.
Okay.
That's our recommendation, to keep that until we can monitor this further.
Yep.
And we currently don't have any tuition-based students.
No.
And that tuition base is the per pupil expenditure that we have as a district. That's what that would be rated as.
Yeah, have you heard anything from the teachers in terms of wanting policy like this, or has there been any voice either way?
No, we've we've actually not had the dialogue. So as we follow up, we'll see if there is any feedback, any questions on this. I'm sure we'll have that conversation.
Is there a good chunk of our teachers that are within district?
We do. We have both teachers and staff. We have I wouldn't say a majority, but we do have a good amount of our Kaneland community who lives and works in Kaneland. The next, thank you for that. Thanks for those questions. The next policy is, the question itself is on page 7 of 8, which is page 80. This policy is student behavior 7-190. So what the question is our internal communication on discipline matters. Our recommendation is when there is a drug-related incident or battery of a staff member, as directly cited here, not that we have issues with either one of those topics, but as this is expanded out, we would recommend the default, which is to notification to the superintendent of all and any drug-related matters and any and all battery of a staff member. It's our current practice. We already do that. I get that communication from the principals or the assistant principals or deans, but this just puts it in writing. And as the superintendent, I would want to know that to make sure that we're handling each one of those discipline matters accurately. Any questions on that one?
Is there an alternative proposal to this or something, or?
That's just amending it to receive. So on the second one, second question is just aligning the duty that the building principal or designee shall notify the superintendent of possession of the firearm. That one we already have to do, so we want to go above and beyond just the firearm to do the drug-related and the battery. Okay. So it's just an extra step and a measure that our district, I recommend that we follow.
Yeah, we have to do this matter of practice anyway, right?
We do it, yes. It's just, yep, I received that communication. The last one where we actually have to have a question on, and then I'll see if you had other questions. This one is on page 86, which that is the 5th page of that 6-page update. That one's 7-270, administering medicines to students. This policy, again, page 86, the default, the question is, does the district maintain special education facilities for children with disabilities? Our answer to that is no. And so as a result, our recommended default is no, that we will not keep district a supply of undesignated oxygen on hand. So my guess is somewhere along the line, some special education facility, cooperative, needed to have undesignated oxygen tanks on hand. We are not making that recommendation that we keep it at our different buildings because we don't have a special education, standalone special education cooperative. What we would do is continue to follow on a specific case by case with an IEP. So if there is an IEP that does require that for our district, for our student in any of our buildings based on our current student body, we would do that. But to have it on site right now without the direct need or usage, it's recommended that we wait until we have an IEP or a student with that matter, or any student with needs. Once we have those students, we follow the IEP, would make sure we have a supply of undesignated oxygen as needed.
And Mid Valley would have its own policy as to the availability of oxygen, whatever medications, correct?
Yes,
They would have their own policy.
Yes, they would follow similarly. I believe, yeah, they also use
Even the
press
one-
policies.
Yeah, even the ones that don't, even the ones that just use our facilities.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Where our outplacement, where our students do go, they follow those.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for that conversation. I know that with 96 pages, there were a lot of policies, and again, most of them are code updates, statute, legal references, new legal references. But those were the 5 that required board action, and again, or board discussion. So there is a recommendation tonight to approve on first reading. And then if there are any questions over the next 2 weeks before the next meeting, or a week and a half, it would come back on consent at the second meeting to approve as recommended tonight.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Lemus.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'll entertain a motion that the Board of Education approve the recommended policy changes from press on first reading.
So moved. Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. The press policy changes have been approved upon the first reading. All right, moving right along. Next up, we have the superintendent/board report.
Yes, thank you. Tomorrow night, one reminder, we have our district-wide spelling bee, which is a follow-up in December from our spelling bees that we have in the 5 different buildings. We bring the finalists together. That starts at 5:30 tomorrow night in the Kaneland High School auditorium. So if you're available to attend, you'll see a super talented students showing off their spelling prowess across the district. The next thing, next week on Wednesday night, we have CAC, our Citizens Advisory Council or Committee. I will send invites out again, reminders to the board. We don't have a, I'll send out a reminder to our board member who signed up. I'll have to look and see that again. But again, all board members can attend and have attended regularly. A couple topics that we're going to cover next Wednesday. The student handbook. We need a parent committee to give us feedback on the student handbook annually, and also our behavior intervention program that we have for students with special needs. We'll have those updates tomorrow night or next Wednesday night. We'll also have referendum feedback discussion. That's going to be the first of several of our family stakeholder feedback. And then also summer school. We'll give feedback on summer school, some potential options and course offerings. And then the other thing that I'm going to get feedback on, which is kind of a segue into my last topic tonight, is the e-learning days, snow days, emergency days. It's always a challenge as we make that decision on a day-to-day basis when we have those. If you'll recall, back in the fall, we did have a board-approved e-learning plan, and that board-approved plan is good for 3 years. But also, please know that it as we review it, as we review the plan, we review the feedback on the plan, we can make changes from year to year through the Regional Office of Education. So just as a reminder, we did have a staff survey go out today to get feedback from staff on student participation, the quality of instruction, the quality of time, student feedback, student attendance. We do know that, as I shared in our publication to families on the last date, we've averaging between 90 and 94% of our staff in attendance. Our student attendance has been between 83 and 90% based on the building, based on the day. So our student attendance and family attendance is definitely a tribute to our staff and our families to have such good attendance. We've had families that have not been able to have students attend. I heard some direct feedback with one conversation and then another email of the challenge, especially for families with elementary students and with several elementary students trying to get 2 or 3 students engaged at different times in different spots around their building or around their house. So we are aware and cognizant of that. So that is one of the other things that we'll take into consideration as we plan and move forward. One of the benefits of e-learning days, it does keep the current school calendar intact. So you can use up to 5 days per year. We have used 3 of those days. So our school calendar is intact other than one emergency day that we used back in August, which was a heat day. So that is one day that we do need to make up. The other 3 are incorporated into the schedule.
Do you know off the top of your head, what does it look like in terms of participation on the back end? So let's say we had regular snow days and we extended out into May.
Yes.
What do you see in terms of attendance at that point from a percentage?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember Dr. Mumm, when we presented the e-learning plan, she had some of the data on what it looked like after Memorial Day, after the Memorial Day attendance. I don't remember the exact numbers. I can share that with you, but I know it was lower than the 94 or 95% that we're currently having now for staff, and about 88% for students. So I know it is lower, but I don't have the exact.
Maybe as part of the discussion when it does
Yes.
come up, we can look at that.
And one other thing to think about too, from the elementary standpoint, several families had to take their kids to the Lighthouse Academy, and they had the school age room, and there was one school age teacher trying to manage 25 different elementary ed kids in their respective schools and classrooms, and then schedules with Chromebooks, and then trying to get everybody on Wi-Fi at the preschool. It proved to be very challenging and extremely stressful, specifically for that one teacher.
Yeah.
I was asked to share that tonight.
No, thank you. Thank you. You can note that you successfully shared that. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And again, the other factors, it's really challenging because we have heard some feedback that whichever plan you use, please be consistent, whether it's e-learning days or emergency days, because to toggle between the two, then there's some frustration of, wait, I'm sorry, I thought it was an e-learning day. I didn't have supervision for my students, or I thought it was an emergency day, so we went outside to play and realized we missed 2 or 3 classes. So some of that consistency was asked for. And then the other piece is that we try to balance. We look at our own Kaneland needs first, but one of the things we do balance, what are the local school districts around us doing? Because there are times too when as we look at our families who might live here and work somewhere else, or live somewhere else and then come here to work, when we're the only one who's either on an emergency day or an e-learning day, trying to balance those is also a challenge. And so we do look at all of those, we do weigh those, and as we looked at them, it was probably 50-50 across the county of e-learning days versus emergency days. Some balanced, some toggled back and forth, and some stayed consistent with one or the other. I think one of the other challenges was, I think a few of the districts that didn't have e-learning plans, it wasn't even an option for them. So I think some of them would have liked to try to use that option, but they just weren't able to because they didn't have a plan. So thankful that we do have a plan that it's not perfect, but our students and staff attended. And again, I will be interested. Mr. Chavez sent out the survey to staff members. We'll have that compiled, put all together by Friday. So we'll be able to look at that and then use that as we plan for the future and make other recommendations.
I just got a quick question about the attendance.
Yes.
So if somebody logs in and they don't log in for the rest of the classes, how is it the first class you log in, that's where you start the attendance? I know there's a lot of issues with the internet down in the park and all that. How is the attendance actually monitored? Because I was aware, if I heard correctly from my oldest, about one of the gym classes, there was probably 56% that didn't participate. You got, showing up for one class, don't show up for the rest, or you pick and choose what you're going to. How is that considered a full day or full attendance? How is that?
Yeah, middle school and high school, it's class by class. So the teachers take attendance class by class, and then as the principals are getting the feedback to give back to us, they're looking at it. Teachers for the whole day, and they also looked at teachers and students who already had sick days, vacation, or sick days, personal days, other things already planned. So what we try to do is differentiate between who we already knew were going to be out on personal days or had prearranged absences versus those based on just their e-learning or emergency day experience. So while it won't be perfect, we're doing the best we can to get the best numbers to make those decisions. So it's a period by period. And I will tell you that I am thankful to look onto the calendar and see that the weather is heading up into the 40s over the next 10 days. Because I don't want to have to make that decision to put our families through these challenges again. So I do look forward to warmer weather for our families, teachers, and students. Those were the updates that I did have. I will bring back more information as we get student or as we get staff member feedback, as we get other feedback and more attendance from one of our other buildings that we're still waiting for.
Dr. Fuchs?
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
Tonight? You're running out of...
Can you give
Maybe
an
I
update?
do.
Yep, Monday night. the virtual safety
Oh,
meeting?
thank you.
Yeah.
I do have something.
Thank you.
Monday night, we're having a virtual safety parent meeting. The information has gone out and we'll resend it probably Friday and then again on Monday to remind parents. We haven't done one of these since 2019. What we're planning to do is we have the security task force and we will go over some of our Kaneland procedures, our expectations, and processes. We won't be giving out very specific details, but we'll also break out into grade levels. I believe it's EC5, 612, so 2 groups to allow parents to share feedback with us and input if they have ideas, as well as ask specific questions in those breakout sessions. So we're looking forward to that. It is virtual, so in January, that's a perfect thing in terms of an evening meeting. You can do it from the comforts of your home. So we'll see how it goes.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Layden.
You're welcome.
Okay, Miss Katie, you're up.
Okay, good evening. As previously mentioned, within the first 2 weeks that Kaneland students have been back from winter break, we have had 3 e-learning days, and then we also had Monday off for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This Friday, our high school's DECA team, which if you don't know is a high school club for students interested in going into the field of business, will compete in sectionals. From there, students can get the opportunity to go to state depending on where they place in the categories. For recent sport updates, boys sophomore basketball beat Chicago Hancock 49-14. Boys varsity basketball beat Chicago Hancock 75-28. And boys varsity wrestling beat Dwight 68-18. Unfortunately for us, girls bowling fell to LaSalle Peru 10-0, and all levels of girls basketball fell to Glenbard South. Currently, Student Council is planning a winter dance and assembly. While there will be more details to share when finalized, the date for this dance will be Saturday, February 17th. For upcoming dates, the winter band concert is on Thursday, February 8th at 7 p.m. This week, the winter play is also taking place. While there is no cost to students, people wanting to see the play can still get a ticket. The dates for the play include Friday, January 19th at 7 p.m., Saturday, January 20th at 7 p.m., and Sunday, January 21st at 2 p.m. Thank you. That is all I have for tonight.
Hey, Katie, I actually have a takeaway for you if the board is okay with it. But given the e-learning environment and everything that's going on, I was wondering if you might talk to your peers in the schools, see how they feel about, now that we've experienced it, what they went through, kind of looking back, what are their thoughts? Did they feel like it was value added? Do they rather have the days added on at the end, just to get the students' perspective? So maybe, next meeting or a couple meetings later, you can just let us know what you guys are thinking. I'd ask you today, but I don't want to put you on the spot. I want to give you a little bit of time.
Or are there any other things we can do to improve those e-learning days, which would improve participation all the way through? Just whatever feedback.
Yeah, part of your role is like boots on the ground, what's going on in the schools. So that feedback. I can't guarantee we would make a decision based on it, but it's helpful to hear what the kids are talking about, for sure.
Yeah, I can bring that for next meeting.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay. We didn't have it on the schedule, but I'm just an impromptu update on the superintendent search. So we were able to meet with our 2 finalists kind of in an informal environment. I've said it probably too many times, you guys are sick of hearing it, but the 2 finalists are both capable of doing the job, but at this point it was more about finding the fit with our district. And so things are moving along. We hope to have, I don't want to make any promises, but we hope to have an announcement coming very soon regarding who we select. So that's where we're at in the superintendent search process. And that's about it. So we'll move forward to topics for future agendas. I have one, but anyone else? I'll go real quick. Kipla, I know we discussed it the finances, and I guess it was reviewed at the Finance Advisory Committee, but I'd like to see, you know, what it's costing, just discuss a little more in depth, and maybe, you know, look at the process. I empathize with the parents here that, you know, we set an expectation and now we're kind of pulling back, but I think if you could just provide the board with, you know, Kipla as a whole, what the cost is, what the future looks like, just a discussion about it.
Yeah, definitely some more details about expected enrollment, what that would look like for the 9th grade, some of the reasoning behind how that all went down, just so we can have a good discussion on that. I know we've been talking about looking for specific costs to Kipla overall in general for a little while now. So we can have that discussion and kind of and revisit some more background and detail of, you know, kind of what transpired, just so you know, you understand what the parents are going through a little bit more. And, you know, if there's the opportunity to discuss something like, I know several of the parents brought up, if they would have had the opportunity to help with funding, if it's, you know, some sort of fundraiser, GoFundMe, or if the parents wanted to put into some tuition themselves to get 9th grade going. I don't know how that works, if that's something that's possible, whatever. But if we can kind of discuss that and if there is additional options for this.
What is I'd like to know what the cost of the operations, just keep the whole building, you know, going. What is that fee?
Like just a fixed overhead?
Yeah, fixed
not even
overhead.
operations, just
I mean just fixed overall, yeah, for that many students. Because that's going to entail the cost per student.
I believe there would be a consensus to bring this topic back, but I just want to make sure that we do have 3 of the 5 who do. Okay, I figured that would be the case, but I just wanted to verify.
Was that building, I mean, is it heated and cooled before Kipla existed?
Yes.
You guys kept it operational, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Dr. Fuchs, you want to go through just what the process looks like year to year prior to Kipla, of how it was utilized and how the upkeep for it?
Sure. The building itself was closed in 2009. At that time, we made a decision that we would keep the building completely operational on an annual basis. So it does go through an annual health, life, safety walkthrough to make sure that everything is up to code. Once you mothball a building, it is very expensive to open it again. So that's why we kept it open. Along the way, Dr. Birchall at Fox Valley Career Center expressed a desire to expand his programs, and they started moving into that building, KMAC, in probably 2010 or 11. It was pretty quickly after. I think there was only 1 or 2 years where it was completely empty. So he moved into there with some of his kids, students, and programs. Additionally, our community, at that time, Elburn basketball was thriving. They used the gym every night of the week, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, from pretty much October through March. And they start like at 5 o'clock. Our high school teams use it from when they get out of school at 3 till 5 or 5:30, somewhere in there. So the gym itself is used regularly. I would say, 6, 7, well, you were here when we did it. We moved educational services from the district office over to KMAC. They started taking over the library, the LRC. And so all of our professional development is now held in that building in the center. Now that the Kipla is there, we actually use a different room for PD, for professional development, but they use it pretty regularly. Our transportation department uses it once a month for safety meetings, because we have regular safety meetings with the bus drivers. Oh goodness, who am I forgetting? There are some other community groups that use it at night. The church was there for a while, but they're not there anymore. They haven't been there since COVID, basically, but they were there for quite some time and had quite a few spaces. The Cub Scouts have their pack meeting there, Elburn Cub Scouts, once a month. That's where they have about 200 kids and families attend. The Pinewood Derby will be there at the end of the month here, beginning of February. They use it for that. Those are just some of the things that we use it for. But the heat and the air conditioning, when it was limited to just Fox Valley, we could isolate areas and then we would cool or heat those areas. But now that everything is used, we cool and heat the whole building. So, is that kind of what you were
Yeah, I guess my
for?
question is, because I know there's a concern about starting the academy, and at the beginning, I mean, that was one of the questions that when we were candidates, what would you do with the 1.7 or $1 million? So I keep hearing this $1 million, and I know there's concerns of a lot of parents not understanding, you know, that figure. Is that figure true? Where is that number coming from? Is for that academy, that school specifically, to keep it going? I mean, are we paying extra money? Are we pulling money from somewhere? Or, you know, A through Z, what's going on, you know?
Yeah. I tell you what, let me defer that question until I can give you something with some facts,
Okay.
as opposed to just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. What I can share is that the majority of the capital money that we put into the building was minimal. It was a lot of labor, a lot of painting, things like that. There were a few aesthetics things, but not a lot. I think the biggest thing was probably the parking lot. But we needed to do that with or without KIPLA. So I would not attribute the parking lot specifically to KIPLA. We had the money and had planned on that. It had been on the capital list for multiple years. We had heard from multiple staff members and community members about how bad the ruts were. And so it was its time to do that. So, but we can bring you a full picture of various expenses. What I can't do is I can't tell you this year's. What I can do is I can estimate based on what's in the budget for it, and we can go from there. So.
And part of the reason why Dr. Fuchs can't do that is because the year's not done. If you'll recall, when we did the indicators of success in the school report card, we had the expenditures by other buildings because it's monitored on a year to year, and we won't have the KIPLA building expenses till July
After June
or
30th,
August.
yeah.
After the school year, calendar year is done, or the fiscal year. So we will bring that back. The several parts of that, from the financials to the enrollment, all of those pieces, I've got that noted to bring back.
One other thing I'm bringing up since we're talking, the TIF was brought up several times, you know, through tonight. I know we had this discussion about it. I do also understand that from a school board perspective, we do not actually have any kind of voting rights. We do not actually have any say in whether or not the TIF goes through one way or the other. I just wanted to confirm that that was my understanding from a school board perspective. Do we need to bring this back up as for the top of a future agenda? Do we need to rediscuss anything specifically as a school board? Is there additional things that we should be doing as a school board? But like I said, when I was listening, my mind went back to our initial discussions where we really don't actually have any kind of say in it one way or the other. We definitely don't have any kind of vote either, correct?
Dr. Fuchs, you want to talk about the voting process of the local TIFs when we get invited to their meetings?
Sure. It's called the Joint Review Board, and I heard somebody mention it during one of the public comments. The school board definitely has a seat at the table at the Joint Review Board, but regardless how we vote at the Joint Review Board, the authority to implement or not the TIF resides solely with the municipality, and in this instance, it would be the Village of Sugar Grove. We can certainly give our opinion, but we don't have any legal authority to do so.
To echo Ryan's comments, I think because My understanding is the last decision we made, the last two decisions we made were regarding the signing the waiver for the legal representation. And that's really the only concrete decision we made. At the time, Crown hadn't filed, and I still don't believe they filed, but
I
forgive me
haven't
if I'm
heard
wrong.
that they have.
Okay, so we don't know yet, but I think that we need to revisit as a board, at least our position. And if we say, hey, do we still want to just not have a position and just stay out of it? Or do we want to come forward as a district and say, you know, as a school board, maybe not the district, but the school board, say, we don't support this, you know, we're not going to benefit from this, or we do support it because it's going to do this. I think we should have that discussion as a board and go from there. I didn't want to just end the Crown discussion based on our, you know, decisions of signing waivers.
So is there something specific as a topic for future agenda? Do you want to wait until we have that information? Is it a discussion the board would want to have sooner rather than later? Trying to capture that so that when we create the next or future agendas, we put it together the right way.
For me, it's hard to make a decision until we've seen the nuts and bolts of what's happening, but I don't know.
To take a position, a board position on the Crown TIF development. Thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever the board.
Just as the
consensus is.
mix.
Yeah, and to have, put it on the record.
But you're asking timeline, right? I mean, in terms of when we do that?
Yeah, because I think I'm hearing from Board Member Mankivsky, when we have the information, that's what I thought I heard from you as well. So I want to just make sure that I'm capturing that accurately.
I want to be fully informed.
Okay.
Should we wait till Crown actually makes a move?
That's where my head was with the whole
otherwise
thing.
we turn the cart before the horse and getting involved in stuff that is it doesn't make sense for us to stand one way or the other yet.
They could give us
right?
money for a whole new high school and 3 middle schools or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm joking, but we just don't know what's coming. So
got it.
I don't know.
My understanding is Sugar Grove has already done its preliminaries to go up to a vote on a TIF. They found the blighted, quote unquote, situation which a TIF is required to have. The preliminaries appear to have all been done. So we probably need to address it sooner rather than later. You know, at least my read on it right now. And the tax impact is going to be huge in terms of revenue loss for our district and for our students. And there's a preliminary plan and talk, but I have seen finals end up, you know, they may have proposed an elephant, but we end up with a zebra and a pygmy hippopotamus.
Well, I think that's something that's worth discussing too. If we can actually put some numbers on paper to discuss the tax implications and the potential for losses if it stays as a farmland, which does not yield a whole lot of tax revenue in the first place, or if it doesn't go to the TIF and it gets developed into, you know, independently. Obviously, that's a whole different, you know, discussion as well. So I think that's part of the discussion we have to have. It is the tax implication, potential for losses, potential for gains, depending on which way we go.
Yeah.
Would you like to communicate with the Sugar Grove board and trustees? Because I think I'm the only Sugar Grove resident here. I have access to a few of them, and if you want communication, I could probably get it. And maybe Dr. Layden, if you could reach out. Maybe someone from the board explain the village's position.
Yeah. Sure, we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's the place to start, is from them, and then go from there. That way you can make an informed decision.
Right.
But Mayor Conan came a couple months ago, and I thought that was beneficial.
She came and spoke
No, I think that's a great idea, and I'd rather do some factual, or at least not informed decision versus emotional decision, because I think there's definitely a lot of different types of emotions going on in this. But I would really like to see some actual facts, some understanding some real numbers, and actual implications of, depending on which of the 3 ways it could potentially go.
We'll learn and find out what information is available at this time and provide that.
Any other topics, guys? I suppose that's enough for now, huh?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to round 2 of public comments. Keeping in mind the same provisions as previously outlined. Okay, Mrs. Grosinger, you're up.
There was a meeting tonight, so I raced out of my house. They're sitting on my couch, so sorry about that. I have 2 quick things I want to talk about. Number 1 is that I got a link sent to me today about a King County board meeting, and it came to my attention that our school buses were being used to help move the migrants that might be coming to King County from the sheriff's department. I listened to that part of the board meeting. They just said buses, but the link that was sent to me with that meeting attached said further research discovered that the school buses used to transport migrants came from Kaneland School District. When was this approved? I may not make it to all the meetings, but I like to watch. I like to look at all the notes and stuff. And who approved this, when, why, and we're talking about trading buses and all of that stuff, and we're going to use them for people outside of our taxing body. It just doesn't, something's not adding up. So some answers on that would be super helpful. The next thing I want to discuss is the e-learning. I'm going to out myself. I was one of the parents that spoke with Dr. Layden over the course of the last few days because I was beside myself. My 8-year-old was dry heaving from anxiety over, even his teacher sent me a seesaw message saying, is he okay? He's looking really stressed out because he's 8.5 and it had to be on a Google Meets from 9 a.m. until 11:15, back on at 12:15 to roughly 3:15. He's not a 50-year-old businessman. He's 8. And it was stressful, especially because I now have a 6-year-old daughter in 1st grade who only had to do a couple activities here and there to constitute that as a full day's school. He's like, why does she get to do like 4 things, call it a day, and I'm here in and out of these meetings? He had to log in. He couldn't find where he had to log in for music, couldn't find where he had to log in for PE. We were sitting there trying to click. All the while, I'm still trying to help her with schoolwork, and I have a 5-year-old preschooler that I'm trying to entertain and not keep, he couldn't be in his room all day. My boys share a room, so he couldn't be in his room all day. I spoke with a mom today at Jewel. We kind of met up after school drop off this morning, and she was like in tears discussing how the last 3 days of e-learning went. I would venture to guess if you sent out a survey to the parents, especially of the elementary age kids, that this would be a common feedback back. I think a lot of parents wanted their kids to do it because it was counted as an attendance day. I got stuck in the middle of a rock and a hard place because I wanted my kid to have the attendance day, but I had to take my 5-year-old to preschool because they didn't cancel yesterday. So my 8-year-old had to log out, log back in, log out, log back in so we could do drop off and pick up. And then I also had a doctor's appointment that I ended up rescheduling because he didn't want to miss any more. He was so stressed about missing school. We also live in Maple Park. We had no power for a lot of Friday morning. And then when our power was restored, almost 50% of us that had MediaCom were out of internet until after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. School wasn't even an option for us at that point for my son, which to me, we like to talk about equitable and fair and stuff. He wasn't even given the same opportunity as other classmates of his. So I can appreciate where this might be super helpful for especially middle schoolers and high schoolers. And as far as the calendar goes, I even expressed this to Dr. Layden. I do think it's a good idea as far as those reasons go, but but I feel like maybe the format needs to change way different for our elementary age kids because it's not even the same for the same kids. So
I'm gonna have to ask you.
yeah,
to
no.
wrap it up.
Sorry, I didn't even notice that it was flashing. But that's all I have to say. I feel like it just needs to be revamped a little bit, especially for our elementary kids.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Anyone else like to address the board?
Board, thank you for giving me another opportunity to speak. We were under the impression that you were aware of the Joint Review Board and how the structure of that board works. We've read through the statutes significantly, and I will share them with you. I will send them to you in an email so that you're aware. With the JRB, from what we've been able to dissect and work with our attorney on the statutes, the way that this works is that the Joint Review Board would overall make a recommendation with the 15 different taxing bodies. And so if that recommendation is against the concept as presented, then the village and Crown would then work to revise that concept to meet your needs. And so, or try to negotiate with you. And so, so there's a back and forth. It doesn't necessarily stop the process, and the trustees very much are still in charge of making that decision. But I do know from my experience with the trustees that they very much would value whatever your expression or opinion may be. And so it's definitely worth participating. We are finding that of the 15 taxing bodies, the ones that we've talked to, very few of them are aware that they have any input at that JRB meeting. And so there will be annual meetings as follow-up. It's not until after the 23 years that the Joint Review Board actually has the authority to stop an extension of the TIF. That's where you actually have the ability to make that decision. But in the meantime, for the initial setup of the TIF, you do have a back and forth negotiation process in regards to the concept and how that could impact or affect the school district. Right now, from the finances that we are looking at, and I'd happily share any FOIA documents. We have a lot of FOIA that we have not publicized, but from the FOIA documents, it appears that the actual taxes coming back to the village would be about $40,000 to $50,000 per million. And so it is up to the village to decide whether or not that they will share that surplus. It is not mandatory. So this is something that you need to be aware of too in your negotiations with them. For instance, there was $1 million surplus just recently that the village had to make a decision on, and there was the village president and one of the trustees were considering using the surplus to put into infrastructure with sewerage on one of the other TIF districts rather than sharing that with the other taxing bodies. The other trustees voted against that. So therefore, the $1 million surplus on that TIF was shared. But the current TIFs for Sugar Grove have not performed as expected in any way, shape, or form. They've underperformed. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. Okay. Anyone else? Last call. Okay. So we're going to proceed with the closed session portion of tonight's meeting. So the Board of Education is scheduled for a closed session to discuss the Illinois Open Meetings Act, Section 2C2 and 2C1. There will be no action taken following the session. Therefore, after the vote to go into closed session, the recording of tonight's meeting will be concluded. This time, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session at 9:03 p.m.
Second.
Okay, and a roll call.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
All right.